All right. I just wanted to share a little bit about transferable skill sets across the industry because I came across some work that has been really interesting. This is film budgeting and the ground up budget build and the way it's very similar to the way you might do something for a ground up budget when you're doing FP&A work. Now, I'm going to go through this quickly because it's a lot of stuff to cover, but you might see some of the aspects the way I do and how it relates, especially for those industries that are heavily labor focused with equipment and rentals and those kinds of vendor AP items that you see so often within your accounting statements. Now you can see here from the title here, we've got roles and of course department breakdown, pay category, because you do have same thing, W-2 versus your vendor services and where they would actually appear. Now, you as far as categories, there are certain things that are well accepted as far as, hey, where wardrobe, hair, and makeup would go versus camera versus your grip and your electric lighting and so on, and some that shift a little bit. That it really depends on what accounting software system you're using. So I'm not really going to go deeply into that. But you do have notes here because you have your prep process, which is all pre-production, a production process, and then your post-production. In case anybody's done any project phases, it's very similar in that respect. Much the same. You have your phase up, as you can kind of see as you bring on heads of certain areas. Obviously the numbers become thicker, right? Because you're reflecting actual payments over the course of each and every single week. How those payments are determined is the daily rate. Usually these are coming from some kind of a union rate, and the union rates can be determined by typically local union jurisdiction, which is very similar. It's not just state, it might be actual city jurisdiction, but often state. So it's very similar if you've ever done many retail locations from state to state, how you have to pay attention to what labor laws are in effect in each state, perhaps when you're doing budgeting for overtime or pension and health or things of that nature. Same thing. They usually do a 10-hour rate or 10-hour day on a contract very often. And so you actually calculate out the regular rate versus overtime rate, more of an accounting requirement because you have to put that on the payroll pay stub. These are just the people who you'd actually do W-2 on any given set at a time. And the next section here, just a very highlight overview of any set construction. And these are just simply materials. The labor piece actually comes down here below the packages and equipment necessary. This is the labor construction breakout. And the way I do it is an approximation on the day-to-day labor requirements to do a build. Now, if you wonder where these are coming from, these are actually from first day set construction schedule, because anytime you do that, you actually have to have it designed and then passed along to get blueprints and all of your CAD drawings approved by an engineer, and then actually go in to get the materials before any construction starts. You get a rough, very rough Gantt, project timeline here as far as when exactly each stage can begin for any build. And then, of course, those builds have been loosely budgeted here. You can see from the construction aspect, scenic, which is painting and kind of the finishing piece, the materials that go into it, roughly the number of days, how many of each worker is required, loosely on linear feet and square feet of material. You can kind of see the labelings and different budgeting pieces here that I've gone through and kind of tinkered with to get a loose idea of how long each piece takes to create. There's also the delivery charges that you can't forget. Those those little overhead things that go into your planning. So many people figure that out when they're building their models, but that's where all of that comes from. So we'll just kind of run back up here. We got labor and the construction. Of course, I show you the materials. Here is the rest of the packages and materials for each department. And you have everything from office space, food service, trash disposal, all the camera department requirements for their equipment. You've got art equipment, all of the set fabrication and prop fabrication. You've got set dressing requirements and budgeting for every single area that you're going to be shooting in your locations, various prop requirements. And there's, of course, a difference when you actually get into consumables, because those are the things like, tape and zip ties, anything that you run through continually. And they're, just the little stuff that you oftentimes forget the budget for, but might find out, oh, wow, they're really dragging us into that area where we're worried about how much we budgeted for. Then you've got wardrobe, further equipment detail for, of course, like I said, you've got all the technical and media aspects for not only the video, but you've got for the sound. You've got all of your lighting and various equipment packages. And then, of course, all of your post. And if you're wondering why it's so detailed, I mean, accountants probably aren't, you get this, but you do have bond certification, which requires you to, it's like an insurance to complete the film. And so they need to know how much you've got, due in each period. So they, understand what your obligations are, but also, what you've planned for to actually complete it. And does your, they think just like an FP&A person, does your basis of labor and equipment meet the requirements to actually sufficiently complete the project? And so they think of it ground up exactly the same way, and they want that granular view. You don't get to do that high level budget push down, and so that's why you really get these breakouts. And of course, you kind of see this, but let's see, this piece right here is once again the actual scheduling by location piece here, and these are just the scenes that have been mapped out day to day, as you can see, by location, so you can plan out exactly who would be there. And if you wonder why that is, you have your standard group of individuals who you would be utilizing on every set, but you've got all of these additional vendors. So you might have visual effects that would have to come in, special effects, you've got special effects makeup. You can plan out everybody on every single day using some kind of a structure like this. You've also got stunt team and all of their various equipment requirements. Every single location that you're at has all of that overhead, and it might be police for traffic control, fire marshals. You've got all kinds of little expenditures, well, little comparatively, that go for each and every single location that you've got to plan out. You get deeper into actual transportation, what vehicles and drivers for all of these things that you're doing. And you can see that way down here is the very granular stuff that actually feeds up and layer upon layer, just like an FP&A planning process for any project that you undergo. It does exactly the same thing. And so you've got day by day relative to whatever your needs are. And of course, all the teams will then feed up and plan out your entire system. Those things all come from, like I said, those budgeting sheets for the set construction. There are various budgeting sheets for hotel planning and travel. All of those things feed in and create this on a granular level, just like you would in any other FP&A project. Now, the reason why I think this is interesting is because when people go to read a resume, they very seldom account for transferable skill sets. And I think this is important because as you walk through this and you begin to understand all of the required skills to actually build up something, which is done by a line producer, they essentially do what you would do as a project manager / accountant all in one. And I don't think that I don't think that's transferable skills outside of industries that you're familiar with really are given enough due credit, simply because somebody doesn't understand them. And I think that's an unfortunate thing, because something like this within the media industry, and rightly so, I mean, it is not a well understood industry, but there are very, very talented people who do this, and could very easily compete with some of the best people within other industries for planning and modeling. And I just don't think that there's enough credit given there. But obviously, this is a planning sheet here, and so this would feed into something that's more familiar, a section by section breakout, so you could print these off or share them. But you've got full breakouts by high level department, and then sub departments, and of course subcategories. Your level 1, 2, and 3, if you're thinking from a chart of accounts, that then breaks out all the way down to, hey, what are we paying for fees, sales tax, various employer taxes, and then pension and health on top of that for every single level, and makes this a little bit easier to read. But the reason for this breakout is, like most industries, you have what is more or less an acceptable accounting format within whatever accounting system you're using. And that budgeting would then come into something like this, where you can see level 1 account, the name, the 2 account, the name, the 3, very familiar. But everything can then be loaded and accumulated and analyzed to say, hey, from a bond perspective, do you have well representative numbers? Could you be insured to have this completed? And I mean, this even goes further. A lot of these are financed off of the tax incentives. That's a very common method to do the financing, but people don't oftentimes understand all of the ins and outs of that. There's qualified spend, and so only qualified expenditures would qualify, hence the name, for those tax incentives. And on the granular level, you have to look and say, hey, is this a qualified expense? You don't get to group things together and say all of these are qualified. You go line by line, receipt by receipt. Yes, it's qualified. No, it's not. And so there's a lot of detail that can go into something like this. And I don't know, it was great. It was interesting. I just thought I'd throw that up, as a video, and just kind of show, because I thought it was pretty interesting. So.